Hey everybody, Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper, back with another unboxing. Now sometimes I get a phone call out of the blue from an area code I don't recognize. And like many of you, I'm wondering, is this another telemarketer or maybe someone's trying to remind me about my car warranty? But in this case, I had a phone call from an Illinois area code. I was very glad to take this call. On the other line was an 86-year-old gentleman who was a Boy Scout back in the 1940s. Actually had been a Cub Scout during World War II, and after the war, during that time, 45, 46, 47, was involved, was an explorer, was a member of the Explorer Emergency Corps. And I don't know what it is, I guess growing up as a military brat, I always had kind of a fascination with that World War II era. So in this box, when he agreed to sell me his collection, are items from exactly from that period. That's when he did his scouting. Everything in here is basically as old as my parents. So this is like 70, going on, well, let's just say 70-year-old stuff. I don't want to date my mom or dad too much. But anyways, I'm really excited to get this. Let's cut it open and let me show you some really cool stuff. All right, you guys are in for a treat. Here's a little peek at the box inside, and the gentleman actually attached a letter because in going back and forth with him, I told him how interested I was really to capture his story. And so he has agreed to let me interview him over the phone and to kind of archive, if you will, the story that goes with the scouting memorabilia. And he actually attached a letter that has a lot of great background here. So I won't read the whole letter, but maybe just a couple of sentences so that you can kind of get the timeline. He said that my birthday is December 1934. So I joined the Cub Scouts in January of his birthday was in 34, and he joined the Cub Scouts in January of 44, just after becoming 9 years old. Joined the Boy Scouts in January of 1947, and I think the Explorer Post was formed in 1950. He did some really cool stuff. I'll save a couple of those things for part of the unboxing, but let's kind of see what's in here. So I'll just slide up a couple of things here that I think are going to be really cool. One of the things that he did was he spent a lot of time out at Philmont. And one of the patches that you're going to see is in 1951, he went on a 36-day junior leader training troop experience at Philmont. Now this guy's dad worked for the railroad, and so his dad could get him free passes on the railroad. As a scout, imagine scout age, he rode on a train by himself from Illinois to Philmont. He said altogether he was gone for 45 days. Now, can you imagine any parent today letting their teenage son leave and be gone for basically, what is that, a month and a half without seeing them? It's just an amazing adventure he had, and so he was a real joy to talk to, and I want to get all that recorded. So again, you're going to see some pretty cool Philmont stuff here as I slide this up. This is a super old, oh my gosh, this old handbook from 1925. And he has a note here for me that this belonged to his uncle. And so I'll make sure that that note stays with that. And then again, more of the stuff from Philmont here as well. So typically I don't really love to get books in collections, but when the book is part of the story and is the context that sort of adds it all in, then that is a treat. So he told me his mom kept everything. So for example, here are all of his Cub Scout books. He's got all of those from that period in 1940s. Here is his Boy Scout handbook. And probably if we looked in there, we could find his requirements being signed off. And then here is his Explorer manual, as again, he mentioned that he joined an Explorer Post in 1950. All right, a couple of really cool things that I'm excited to get is this guy right here. So as many of you will recognize, this is the first edition of the Order of the Arrow Handbook. This came out in 1948 and was written by a man named J. Rucker Newberry, who actually at the time was in Charleston, South Carolina. He was a scout executive at the Coastal Carolina Council, and having grown up in South Carolina, that's a real known person that had a lot to do with Order of the Arrow getting launched in that part of the country. Now the cool thing is, if I just peek in here, I can see exactly what printing this was. So yep, copyright 1948, compiled by J. Rucker Newberry of Untitled Lodge. So that's a really, really nice condition. But I'm not even sure that's the book that I'm most excited about. Let me slide this puppy up here. Now, in our conversations, it was kind of amusing when he mentioned having a copy of the Wabaningo Lodge Emblem Handbook. This is an original. I don't own an original. I have a reproduction that somebody did at some point. And when he told me that, it really just sort of got under my skin. Like, I have got to convince this gentleman to sell me his collection, because not only does it have this really cool stuff from that World War II era, it has the seminal patch collecting book. So what was the Wabaningo? Well, a guy named Dwight Bischel in probably the early 50s, I think this book came out in 52, he wrote to council offices all across the country and told them that he was working on this project. He asked them if they would send him a copy of their lodge emblem, and many of them did. He compiled all of that research into this book, and he didn't get a patch from every council, but where he didn't get a patch, he noted what was known. And this came out in 1952. This is, again, original copy. And this kind of, I won't say this launched or whatever, but this definitely was really key to Order of the Arrow collecting becoming a real thing. And so what I'll try to do maybe is just crack open a page or two so you can kind of see what he did here. But essentially every lodge that was known of, he had a representative patch in this book. And so later on, collectors actually created a collection, and they nicknamed the badges that are photographed in this book, they nicknamed them WABs after Wabaningo. And this is just a really super cool book. So in talking to the guy on the phone, he confessed he really wasn't sure how he got this book. He doesn't really have a strong memory of it, but he kind of knew what it was, and I knew what it was, and we connected on that. He had, of course, a couple of Order of the Arrow sashes, and so this is a felt flocked sash that from that time period. And then here's another one which looks to have maybe just a slightly different design to it. He packed things good with some peanuts. One of the first pictures he sent me was of this vest, and that definitely got my interest peaked. I'll show you this vest. Guys from that time period, a lot of times they would have these Western style vests and they would sew their patches on it. And so right off the bat here, you can see that there's Philmont stuff all over the front, and that's what's kind of going on here. And then on the back, there's a lot of camp patches and Order of the Arrow patches as well. I'm not sure if these will slide under the camera too well, but anyways, again, maybe I'll just hold it up closer to this camera, you can kind of see. This is a super cool vest from that time period, and I'm just, tickled pink to get it. I think it's super cool. Put that to the side. And then we have his merit badge sash. So you can see by the merit badge sash that he was a very busy scout. Interesting story, he actually told me that he did not earn Eagle, and the reason why was because he could not pass swimming or life-saving merit badge. In the area he grew up, I don't think there was like a pool. There just wasn't much opportunity to learn how to swim. And so that was kind of a regret for him that he didn't get those, but that's why. But he did a lot of scouting. And as like I said, that trip to Philmont kind of being the capstone event there. So this is his Explorer uniform. So he said that in 1950, he joined an Explorer post. And Explorer post, you would have had this dark green uniform. And then I'll show you this Philmont patch. So here is his round patch with all the segments. So when you went to Philmont, if you do different activities, you would have gotten these segments. And then the one that's really interesting is this one, which would be the patch that he earned for taking part in that special program where he was there for 36 days. And again, I'm going to interview him and kind of find out the story on that. Pair of green Explorer pants. I guess that's not too exciting to share with you. Plain old neckerchief. Pair of scout pants to go with it all. But then here is, well, let me start with this Cub Scout shirt, because again, I've seen pictures of all this, and I know that the Cub Scout shirt even kind of tells a story. So this is what I love about this collection. And I told the gentleman that I'm going to definitely keep this collection and frame it, and it'll be something that I share at our camp museum that we're going to do at the camp that I run during the summer down in South Carolina. But over here you can see he was raised in Peoria, Illinois. There's his strips right there. And then what I like about this shirt is, and I'll switch it out now, you can see that one of the patches he has is a 1944 Cub Victory Patch. Now I don't know what that was for, but the fact that that patch was issued during World War II is just kind of cool to me, because we all knew what they were talking about when they were talking about victory. Now, this gentleman did take part in a lot of the Boy Scouts World War II era service programs where they were trying to collect medals and stuff like that. And so he actually has on his scout uniform a couple of things that kind of point to that. So here's his scout uniform. Again, the same thing you're going to see. You see this now with the Boy Scout uniform. Instead of it being blue and yellow, of course, it's a khaki and red to match the material. So again, Peoria, Illinois. He was in Troop 11, and this indicates he was a patrol leader. And then what I'll do is I'll slide this under here and try to show you the war service patch. And so this was part of him doing the service projects, so that he was recycling metals. I think he told me that his troop recycled something like 100 tons of metal or something. It was just pretty impressive. But again, I'm going to call him back and get the whole complete story. A couple other things in the box. There's not too much left. There's, of course, Cub Scout beanie kind of goes with that. His Cub Scout neckerchief, the classic, of course. His garrison cap, his troop neckerchief, that kind of thing. And then there is a small bag of miscellaneous stuff, and let's just take a look at that. So here are rank patches and some of his pins that went with that. His and again, I mentioned he was a life. There's one of those things, life for life, I think is what they call it. He did not achieve Eagle, and he wasn't really embarrassed to tell me about it all these years later. He just sort of explained that it was something where he wasn't able to swim. He couldn't pass the swim test. As I mentioned, he was a member of the Emergency Service Corps, and he actually printed out a copy that he found on the internet where he was doing some research on what that was. And so that was basically a program that the Boy Scouts had during that wartime, and then going on after that, where the Scouts could be called out in order to help out with the community. Then there was a small bag here, and it's labeled Miscellaneous Order of the Arrow for the 10th anniversary meeting of their lodge. So that might be interesting to peek at. We'll show you some of the patches here. So that is definitely a super cool patch right there. As he mentioned, the 10th anniversary meeting of his lodge, and then this would have been his lodge, so there in Illinois. And then he has, it just keeps going. So then he has his carved arrow from when he was going for his brotherhood in Order of the Arrow. So sometimes I get collections and I'm just so excited to talk to the person on the phone, get the story, and this is one of those. This is a collection that I'm not gonna break up. I'm gonna keep the vests together, keep the uniforms together, because I think it's such a cool story to go from Cub Scout in 1944 through the end of World War II and into that post-war era. He's a really interesting character. Again, 86 years old, but very lively. I'm going to get him on the phone and record the interview, and maybe it'll be something I can share as a part of the show notes for this video. Thanks very much, Jason Spengler of the SanteeSwapper. Don't forget to go to my website, scoutpatchcollectors.com. There you can find my newsletter, my podcast, other videos I've done. I've done dozens of these unboxing videos, and this definitely may be one of my favorites. Thanks, guys.